We start today with the Senate, and the question is, the Senate's going to come front and center post-Duffy.
Yeah.
The question is the debate around the assisted death legislation, which the Supreme Court has a June 6th deadline on.
Yeah.
It could live or die in the Senate.
Right.
And this is a real test to see if this new independent Senate actually functions. Are Canadians ready to see a Senate that is more independent, more robust? Do they have that kind of legitimacy?
I hope they're not. Did I miss something? Have these senators been elected? No, they have not. The problem with the Senate has never been, were they nonpartisan, were they independent, were they good people, were they bad people? The problem with the Senate is it's not elected. So they have to do what they're told by the House of Commons in all circumstances, in my opinion. And this idea that there's leeway depending on the seriousness of the issue, the more serious the issue, the more they should do what they're told.
Well, that's interesting. James Cowan, the former Liberal leader in the Senate, said to me, elections are not the sign of legitimacy. Because he says judges aren't elected, many boards aren't elected, but I think it's a faulty analogy.
He's in the legislature. The legislatures in democracies are elected.
Straight up.
Straight up.
So you don't buy it.
That's the
so
only
you think
way, that's the only way you get legitimacy.
Proving the relevance of the Senate by being more independent to you is absolute.
Dangerous, very dangerous. So if they start to say we have legitimacy that doesn't come from the ballot box, well, where does it come from then?
They'll say the Constitution. That's their argument.
The Constitution.
You don't buy it.
We're a democracy.
You don't buy that.
Legislative power comes from the ballot.
Okay. This week, Catherine McKenna, the Minister of Climate Change and the Environment, and Trudeau, they went to go to Washington, and they finally signed on to the Paris Agreement on climate. Right. Now, do you remember all the hoopla in Paris as all the countries gathered, and this was supposed to be one of those turning points on climate change? Now reality's setting in.
Hard to be as euphoric now in Canada, because a couple of things have happened since Paris. Justin Trudeau's gone to Vancouver, met with the premiers, tried to get just the beginnings, just the hint of the beginnings of an agreement on pricing carbon, couldn't get it. And then we had Rachel Notley's dramatic speech at the NDP convention where she made the case for moving ahead with fossil fuels development. We've been reminded in Canada in no uncertain terms that this is not a file that somehow is going to magically solve itself. The moment in New York feels just a little less euphoric as a result.
You're suggesting there's a political climate change since Paris.
I think that's right, or at least like
I agree.
There's been a reality check here.
Yeah, I agree. I think the aspirations become the dour work of incrementalism, and we'll see where they go. And I think that becomes a tougher file. All right, you mentioned Rachel Notley. Let's just talk about leadership. A poll has come out for the NDP, who now are in a leadership race. So are the Conservatives. And a poll has come out putting a couple of people in the lead. One of them, Avi Lewis, one of the people behind the LEAP manifesto. I spoke to Avi Lewis, and you and I talked to him. He denied in Maclean's that he was interested in the leadership. I pressed him. He said, I'm not interested. And I used your advice, and I asked him, would you rule out ever running as leader? And guess what? He said, no, I will not rule it out. And then he said, okay, you got me.
Yeah, ruling out is sort of the test, right? Because lots of people know they can say how they feel now. It's when they project forward that it's meaningful. So I think you got an interesting.
Yeah, he won't rule it out. And you know, every candidate wants what? Oh, a draft me movement. It's not me throwing my hat in. They made me. You know, and it's like when a new MP comes into Parliament, and they kind of have to.
Right. So that's the symbol. Yeah,
it's.
So we'll watch
it's a necessary
Nathan
illusion.
Cohen, though, is the front runner.
Yeah, and by the way, I should say this: there is probably nobody that has the kind of charisma, in my view, right now in that NDP caucus as Nathan Cohen.
And proven political chops and bilingualism.
Yeah, that's right. French is excellent. All right, that's the Leadership Watch on the NDP. We'll see you next week.